After the Iowa game, was that kind of a turning point for the defense?
Well, I think the biggest turning point for us was getting into that bye week. And, you know, the Iowa game, I think, showed some areas that were really positive in growth that we've had, and areas where we still needed to grow and we still needed to work on. And, you know, a lot of that was situational work. You know, I think you saw that as we, you know, kind of got up, and then, you know, some third down situational things that just weren't where we needed to be or where we wanted to be. But I think what we had the ability to do after that was get through the Akron game, be able to get to that bye week, and then make some really good adjustments based on what our personnel was and really where we thought our personnel was at that time. So I think the biggest thing, you know, that Iowa game probably exposed either some positives that were going on and maybe some negatives. But I think what it allowed us to do is get to that bye week and make some really good adjustments for the best of our program.
What were some of the big adjustments you did defensively?
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing was personnel work, you know, and just how did we group our personnel the right way? How did we start to become multiple? You know, I think you watch that game, you see us in a four-man front probably 95% of the time, you know, and it allowed us to kind of work both our personnels and then being able to be multiple both in our coverages and our fronts. And, you know, we like I said before, we knew with a young defense and a lot of guys, Joel even being a young guy playing there for the first time, that we had to be really simple early in the season so we could at least let our guys get some confidence and let those guys get their techniques and fundamentals down.
How have you guys been able to accelerate the learning process for those young guys?
Well, I think, number one, you got to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff on the defensive side. You know, all four of those guys are great teachers. You know, they always have been. I think the ability to adapt and to really understand what we were trying to get accomplished, and then you got to give credit to our seniors. You know, I mean, there are almost each one of those position groups has got a senior that's really playing at a high level right now. You know, with JD and certainly what him and Burnell are doing with that defensive line, and then Joel at linebacker, and now you throw in McEnroe, and then you go into that secondary, and there's a lot of senior veteran leadership there with Kamari and certainly Reggie and Everett. Those guys, and mixed with that coaching staff, have allowed us to really week in and week out grow this defense and be able to adapt to who we're playing and have the ability to be multiple.
Was there an aha moment during that bye week, or maybe a light bulb moment afterward for the defense where you realized they've really turned the corner?
Well, I think you saw confidence really start to grow in that Texas game, you know, and you know, I thought that, you know, for 4 quarters defensively, you know, we gave ourselves a great opportunity to win that game. And, you know, I thought that was the first time, and then you saw us be able to be multiple within that game where we said, you know what, we can do this, and we can just got to build on it and let it keep growing. And so I think that was the biggest first step of confidence, you know, that said, okay, I think we're heading in the right direction right now.
Has the defense in general just been probably, I don't want to say surprises, but just, you know, biggest, maybe pleasant surprises as a whole for you as a coach to look back on, just because there were so many question marks?
Yeah, and I think the ability, like you said, I think surprise maybe is the wrong word, but the ability to watch the growth happen and see the growth go as fast as it has. But again, that there's a lot of seniors that are playing critical roles, and anytime you've got seniors, I think we've always said this, that you want your seniors playing their best football, and by the time their senior year is happening, and if that is going on, then you usually have a chance to be pretty good as a football team, and that's what's going on right now, especially with the defensive side of the football.
Coach Haycock talked about the linebackers last night and said the way you guys play schematically, it allows the middle linebackers specifically to have a lot of success, and without showing your cards or anything. What is it about the way you guys play that allows that kind of position to have success?
Well, I think the biggest thing is what goes on with that defensive line, you know, and those guys, more than anything, being gap responsibility guys to free up all of our linebackers. And, you know, the success of Joel, Marcel, Willie, you know, McEnroe at times, those things are really credited to what we do with that defensive front, whether it's moving it or whether we're asking them to 2-gap or whether it's 4 guys down. You know, I think we have so much in with those guys and ask those guys to almost change their fits constantly that we allow those guys a lot of freedom at the linebacker position to be successful.
How quickly has the line been able to pick that up? Because, I mean, from a non-football perspective, it sounds like it'd be complicated, but they've seemed to really kind of grasp it.
Yeah, they have, and again, it's having some guys with some great football IQ, JD, Vernell, Ray Lima. Those guys have really done a great job, and then some of these young guys, with what Ennie's been able to do. He's been a defensive end. He's been a 3 technique. He's played a nose, and Jaquan's flexibility to move inside at times, to play outside at times. It's really been fun to watch that, and again, a lot of credit's got to go to those guys. Those guys have worked really hard and been in the film room, done a lot of little things for us to have those successes.
Coach Haycock's kind of constantly said that it's just a simple approach when it comes to defense, just small things, not a heavy playbook. I guess, when did you guys kind of sit down and kind of decide we need to keep it as simple as possible to get these guys on the a good learning curve, I guess?
Well, I think that goes back to our Toledo days, to be honest, and I think when we were able to bring Coach Haycock into Toledo when we got there, that was kind of the recipe of what we needed at that time in our football program. And I always felt like offensively we had a great foundation. When things got tough, you knew what our foundation was, and we were looking for the same thing on defense. And that's I to be honest with you, when I had first gotten the head coaching job at Toledo, I had reached out to Coach Haycock, and they had just gone to Purdue as a staff, and it was bad timing, but a year later it ended up really working out. And so it's one of those situations that I think our philosophies have always matched. I've got a great trust in Coach Haycock, and the neat thing for them is there's such a good bond there. Tyson Veit, really sharp, intelligent guy, a guy that brings a wealth of knowledge of different defenses to the table. DK McDonald, the same thing, and then obviously Coach Rashid's foundation with that D-line. But I think those guys mesh so well together that it's not even a one-man show over there. It's kind of all those guys really putting great investment into what's going on and matching really our philosophy of what we want as our program as a whole.
Where did that 3 safety look come from?
Well, I think that's something that if you do look back in our past, we've done that at times. We've had that. Our Coach Haycock's first year at Toledo, you were a heavy 4-2-5 team, and then had the ability to get to a 3-3-5, and then the next year we didn't have that personnel, so we're a 4-3, and I think the neat thing for us is we're always going to do players, formations, plays. What players do you have dictate what formations you get into, and obviously what plays you end up calling, and it's always kind of been our philosophy is let's give our players, whoever those players are, the best opportunity to be successful, and that's kind of the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, I think we asked Marcel yesterday, how have you guys been able to adapt to Big 12 offenses? And he said, we're just perfecting our defense. How much of that goes into, how much of your mindset is just going into perfecting your defense and worrying about yourselves?
Well, I think that's our whole team, to be honest with you. I think that's why you've seen us be able to have a lot of success in terms of, getting better week in and week out. And that part has really been our philosophy from day one anyways, not really worrying about what our opponent's doing, but really kind of honing in on our craft. And obviously we do a great job scouting and having a knowledge of what schematically we're going to go against, but it still comes down to the ability in the heat of the moment, our guys having to go back to their craft, their detail and their discipline to be able to have success. And that's where I think you've seen the biggest turning point in our program, at least over the last 6 to 7 weeks, is our ability to really do those things in the heat of the moment. And that's helped us immensely.